Hi everybody, it's Joey Remenyi here from seekingbalance.com.au. I'm a vestibular audiologist and I'm a neuroplasticity educator, and I take a really special interest in persistent vertigo, all forms of dizziness, and tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears or any perceived sound coming from the body. My favorite part of my career is meeting people who have collaborated with me in some way or joined the Rocksteady community, and I love hearing human stories. I believe storytelling is a massive part of healing, and that is the single reason I have a podcast and a YouTube channel. So today I'm really delighted to introduce you to Catherine from the United States, who has an experience with tinnitus and the challenges of early motherhood, as well as study and work and juggling life as a marriage and family therapist associate. So thank you so much for your bravery, Catherine, and welcome to the call.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, this is a real treat. So I would love you to share with the listeners a little bit about the last 2.5 years and how that journey has been for you. And yeah, let the listeners get to know you a little bit.
Okay, so 2.5 years ago, my son was 1.5 years old, and I was staying at home with him full time, 3 days a week, and then no, 2 days a week, and then 3 days a week I was working as a marriage and family therapist associate, and I was at home and I was cooking dinner, and um, all of a sudden, my son was crawling around and he opened a cabinet and a pot was going to fall on him. And I went sliding. I ran towards him and I went sliding like I was sliding into home base. I used to play softball growing up, and I landed hard and I hurt my neck. And that night when I went to sleep, I laid down to go to sleep, and all of a sudden I heard high-pitched ringing in my ear. And I thought it was like the television or something, and it was not. And so I ended up going to an ENT, and he told me that my hearing was perfect and that the tinnitus was stress related.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, okay, I don't quite understand why that's stress related, but okay. And then I thought, well, no, I've been in much more stressful circumstances than I'm in right now. I'm happy. Like, I stay at home with my son part-time. I work part-time. Things are stressful, but they're fine. I've had traumas in my life growing up. It was fine. It wasn't wonderful. There were things that happened. And I thought, why would the tinnitus start now? Why wouldn't it have started, years ago when I had these like major traumas? What I didn't realize was that the traumas were building up in my body, and I was releasing them as much as I could, but it was getting stored in my body. And I ended up, since I didn't believe him fully, I ended up going to multiple chiropractors, and I went to another ENT, and nobody could help me. And I was so anxious and so depressed. My friends didn't understand what was going on. They were there for me as much as they could. My husband, he was there for me as much as he could, but I felt like nobody understood what I was going through. I was so anxious and stressed, and the tinnitus would come and go. But 8 months ago, it started to be here more than it was gone. And I realized that it was stress related when I started to recognize a pattern to it. I would wake up in the morning and the tinnitus would start first thing in the morning, and then it would last the entire day. And then I would put my kids to bed at night, and I would go and sit down and finally be able to like relax and breathe, and it would fade away. And I was starting to realize that it was stress that was causing it. And so I was listening to a podcast, and I decided on something random. And then I decided to search in the podcast in my app for tinnitus, and I found you, and I started listening to your podcast, and then I went to your YouTube channel, and I like watched all of those videos, and I knew you were on to that this was the path for me.
Mm.
And I joined your Facebook group, and I was like so excited. And then I ended up joining Rock Steady last week, and I have been devouring all of that, and I've already felt more better days than I've felt in the last 8 months, and it's changed my life.
Do you want to talk a little bit about, also you had a period there of doing the 7-day support program, so you didn't necessarily dive straight into the full comprehensive support. Do you want to speak a little bit about that, exploring the pausing and neuroplasticity and sort of going, okay, what's all this about?
Yes. So I did join that first. And I liked how simple it was, really. It's like you were guiding me back towards myself with the body scan, and just you broke it down and made it so accessible. It doesn't matter your background, you can do a body scan. Even though I've studied neuroplasticity and neurobiology in school, and so I'm aware of like fight, flight, freeze response, and you don't need to know that to do any of the things that you're asking people to do. It's all about tuning into your own body and figuring out what you need and nurturing yourself. And so I really enjoyed the body scan, and I also wanted more. I remember the tinnitus was just going on and on and on and on. And I told my husband, I was like, I need more support, and I want to do rock steady. And he was like, go for it. And so I did, and I'm so grateful.
Do you want to talk, we were just talking earlier before we clicked record about being on the therapist side of it, and looking at other people's relationships, and in your case, looking at relationships between partners or family members, parents, children, and kind of knowing theoretically, and from what we learn in school, in psychology type studies and things like that, knowing how to see it from an outsider's perspective and piece it all together, the jigsaw puzzle, and contrasting that to sort of going, oh my God, now I have to feel it. I've got to do it. I have to be in this relationship that's unconditionally loving and patient and compassionate. And it just takes it to a whole new level. Do you want to speak about going from the theory to the actual embodiment of going through it?
Yeah, it's humbling. I have always had compassion for my clients, and I know how hard it is to, go through trials in your life and to have relationship problems. And then when you're actually going through something traumatic in your own life, it's I'm trying to word it all. You have to then apply everything that you have told other people would be beneficial for them and for their growth, and you have to apply it to yourself. And it's almost impossible to do, because you're coming at it, you're trying to therapize yourself or do therapy on yourself from the fight, flight, freeze, freak out reptilian brain. And I cannot do that. That's why therapists can't do therapy on themselves and their own family and their own family relationships. And so, but what I gained from you was, a therapist. Like you are a therapist. You're an amazing therapist. And you helped me turn that on myself and to learn how to soothe myself, because I am, even though I deal with couples in relationship, we are in a relationship with ourselves for the rest of our life, right? So
Yeah,
it's
I feel like that's worth kind of pausing and highlighting and underlining and putting in italics, that we the word relationship often, immediately gets put into that basket of romantic relationships, but we actually have relationship to everything, to objects, to our symptoms, to our body, to our personality, to trees, to nature, to the ocean, to our bed, to our car. Like, relationships are everywhere, and they're intermingling and intersecting and interacting. And because we are conscious human beings, we're not reptilian animals anymore, and we have this amazing prefrontal cortex that enables us to negotiate relationships and compromise and design and participate. We really are co-creating our life by consciously creating relationships to ourselves and the world around us. So it really takes this idea of relationship therapy to a whole new level.
Yeah.
And I know I've said this on a number of podcasts, but the reason I made Rocksteady a self-study program, and I'm really adamant it has to be self-study, is because no external source can tell anybody else how to heal. It's a process of going in and asking yourself and saying, body, what do you need? Mind, what do you need? Heart and soul, what are you communicating to me? It's an internal answer. And the capacity to stop and listen takes time. You've got to go through self-doubt. You've got to hate yourself a bit before you can love yourself a bit more. You got to go through the shame and self-forgiveness, and all of these things are a very natural part of becoming your own best friend, becoming your own expert. And I think as a therapist, stepping back and giving people space to do that is the best therapy.
Yes.
And holding the container.
Yes. I remember in school when I was learning how to be a therapist, and I was like, okay, but what do I do? And they're like, no, just like create the space. And I'm like, yes, but what do I do? Like, and then I learned, like, you have to provide the platform and a safe environment so that people can come to their own answers and feel, and join together, in my case with the couples, so that they can, have their opportunity to open their hearts with each other. And I provide the space and the safety for that. And what you are doing is providing that safety for me and the space for me to figure out what I need. And it's interesting because it doesn't matter who I have told about the tinnitus. Like, I have tried to explain it to my friends, like, well, this is what I hear. And it's never, they're never going to know. They're never going to understand it. And that's so frustrating, because I'm like, but you don't understand. Like, you don't understand what I have to go through or what I have to listen to. And they're never going to understand. But once I drop that and I become my own best friend, and I say, but I know what it's like, that higher voice talking to myself. Like, that's what I've been doing lately, is being my own best friend and saying, I know what it's like, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think we covered this in one of our live group calls in Rocksteady, where someone was like, my husband doesn't understand, what advice do you have for me, Joey? And I was like, he's never going to understand. No one will ever understand. It's impossible for anyone to get inside your body and understand your symptoms. We can kind of create space and hold space for you, but we'll never understand. And things that you feel are completely 100% unique and yours and individual. And the only person who can ever truly understand what you're going through is you. And I find it very liberating to stop expecting other people to understand. It's like, well, they can't understand. It's scientifically impossible. So I can release that expectation. And I found there's something freeing in that, because it's really heavy when you're trying to get people to understand, and like, it's just whoa, like dead ends.
Totally. But it doesn't mean they love you any less.
No.
They just, it's like if my friend is having, stomach pains, and I don't know exactly what it feels like to have those intense stomach pains, but I still love her and I still want the best for her. And I'm there to listen
Yeah.
and to, care for her. But it, I, nobody can know
Yeah.
unless you're the actual person going through it. And the freeing part, the liberating part, is that it doesn't matter if anybody else knows. I'm I'm the most important person to myself.
Yeah. So the main reason we got you on this call was because we have this beautiful Facebook closed group called Rocksteady for Vertigo and Tinnitus, and anyone's welcome to apply and join. Just have to agree to two main agreements, which is we don't ask advice or give advice in the group, and we don't talk about our symptoms in the group. It's all about how we're healing and how we're managing challenges and really developing a voice of empowerment instead of a voice of victim and woe me and my symptoms are driving me crazy. So the group is really a very clean space and a very beautiful space for being supported. And can I read your post that brought us together, and then you can speak on it because it's really beautiful.
Yes.
So Catherine's post is, wow, I just had a magnificent experience and a revelation about tinnitus, and I wanted to share it in case this helps any of you. I was just meditating, which I began doing just a little over a month ago, and it's new to me. As I was nearing the end of the meditation, I had this image of swimming in the ocean, and the sounds under the ocean were representative of the tinnitus I was hearing as I was meditating. All of a sudden, I felt and saw my body slowly coming up to the surface of the ocean, and as I lifted my head up and out of the water, the tinnitus faded away. I literally heard the ringing get softer and softer as I rose to the surface of the ocean until it was no longer there. It was so freeing and amazing because I finally felt like I had control over whether I heard the tinnitus or not. Oh, this is where it gets tricky reading a screenshot. What I finally deeply understood is that those sounds that I call tinnitus are always there, just as the sounds deep in the ocean are always there. My body is constantly making noises, and it's completely natural and normal. When I hear them, it's like I'm under the surface of the ocean. But as I rose to the surface of the water and lifted my head up into the air, I could no longer hear the sounds beneath the ocean, which represented the tinnitus. So if I rise above the sounds of my body, I no longer hear them. It's not that the sounds of my body or tinnitus are not there, just as the ocean noises still exist, even if we're not able to hear them. It's just that my awareness is no longer on the tinnitus, and I needed to reassure myself that listening to the sounds of my body is not important. And then you go on to say, I am safe, I am healthy, I am strong, I am healed, I'm whole and perfect. And so are you. So that was a really supportive post within our group. And we were talking earlier about we can have these moments or days or weeks of no tinnitus, and then other times it comes back again. And so it's this process of teaching our brain and our noise filters about what we want to filter out because we don't need to hear it, it's not important, and what sounds we want to come through because we do want to hear them and they're nourishing. And so when we're very worried about our tinnitus and desperately doing everything we can to get rid of it, it slips through the filter and we hear it because the brain thinks you're asking it to do that. Because we're like going to the doctor for it, talking about it, worrying about it. The focus is on the tinnitus, so it slips through the filter and you can hear it. When we release the importance upon the tinnitus, and it's just like, oh, it's just like, it's always there, it's whatever, it's just like the sound of the ocean, I don't need to get rid of it, it's just there. That's when the brain filter is really clever and it goes, oh, okay, boring, irrelevant, not needed, not helpful. And it actually creates a new filter where the tinnitus sound can't get through. So we don't perceive it, we're not aware of it, it's not coming through to that auditory cortex, it's being blocked like a noise cancellation system. So the tinnitus is still there in the body, but it's not coming through to the level of awareness. Do you want to
Yes.
speak a little piece in reflection on where you are now in terms of managing the highs and the lows and working with your filters, and that piece on placing meaning on body sound and importance? Because you're still early on in your journey, really.
Yeah. I so before I would hear the sound and freak out. And I mean, who doesn't at first?
Exactly. It's what I was thinking.
I mean, it's
Welcome to
like,
the club.
yeah, I know. It's like, it freaks you out. But um, what I was realizing in that meditation, it was amazing. I was just like in the zone, and all of a sudden I was under the ocean, and I was listening to the whales and the dolphins and all of that. And I knew that was the tinnitus noises. And I could hear the tinnitus when I was meditating.
Hmm.
And then I all of a sudden just felt myself come to the surface of the ocean and pop my head out, and I didn't hear it anymore. And literally I did not hear it anymore. Like, it went away as I was coming up. And I realized that, oh my goodness, like, the sounds of the ocean are always there. The sounds of my body are always there, but
Hmm.
I don't need to listen to it unless I want to go scuba diving, or I
Hmm.
want to dive deep into my body and, see what's up. I,
I just want to add there, or AWE, to have to listen to our body, or tinnitus sounds, or in the context of scuba diving, to be down there and listen to whale sounds with awe puts the
mm,
brain in a very gentle and open place where it's very neuroplastic and able to problem solve and change filters, because there's no fight, flight, freeze. If
yeah,
you are scuba diving and listening to the whales with like freak out, your filters are jammed and locked, and it's not plastic. So the neuroplasticity is inhibited by the fear. So the fact
mm,
you were scuba diving and like, oh, there's whales and wow, that's when the filters can sort of be malleable and change.
mm,
And so that's where awe, it becomes a very important aspect of healing, to break your arm and be like, wow, my body's amazing. Like, my bones can heal. This is incredible. You're
look
going
at
to
the
heal
blood.
quicker than freaking out.
Yeah.
And so awe is one of my favorite feelings, emotions, or it's a phenomena that fascinates me. And self-awe, AWE, I relate to more than self-love. Sometimes, I mean, loving yourself is important, and I get that, and I talk about it, but something about it's a bit cliche, and I don't know, like, just doesn't sit well. So I personally really like to look at self-awe. Like, what about myself as an organism is just totally miraculous and breathtaking?
Yeah.
And seeing that in yourself is just such a beautiful practice,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's not
I,
neurotic.
no, no. I, I mean, I have like grown to love myself on a whole new level.
Well done.
Like, I'm like, growing up, my mom was, when I would, be grumpy or have an attitude or something when I was a teenager, and she would say, I want you to write 5 things you're grateful for. And I'm
Oh,
like,
bless.
and it was so good. And in the moment I was like, I'm not grateful for anything, even though I totally was. I was just being a teenager. Um, oh my goodness, like, I could write for days of all the things that I'm grateful for, and like, just how magnificent life is, and my body. Even with the tinnitus, I would have never said that 2.5 years ago. I would have never said that 8 months ago. I mean, I
Mm,
hated it. And I got to some low places. Like,
mm.
it has not been pretty.
Yeah.
But I, the body is fascinating, and neuroplasticity is amazing.
Yeah.
And I am coming out on the other side of it a much better person. And I am so excited I can teach my kids about it, and start them so young, and
Mm.
I I would not be who I am now without this experience.
Yeah. Well, it's
So,
very enriching. And that is kind of a nice way to wrap up the conversation. Is I often ask people, are you yet able to find the wisdom and the insight and the gift in what was perceived as like a terrible, debilitating symptom? Are you starting to get into a position in yourself and in your life where you're starting to see the gift and the richness in it, and how it can be the window or the doorway into the secret garden?
yeah. Yeah. But that's the key, is like, you really have to nurture yourself, and really have to come from a loving place and a place of awe
Mm,
for yourself, in order to like come out on the other side with or without the tinnitus. Like it can come along with me. I mean, it's happening right now and
It's
it's
your body.
okay. It's my body and it's making its little jingle, like, and I'm not going to worry about it. And I'm going to say, hey friend, what's up? What do you need? Oh,
And
like,
I get this question all the time, so I'm going to ask it to you so you can say whatever your piece is on it. So many people ask, can you actually get rid of it and have no noise? So these would be people who would have had months or years of like persistent constant tinnitus and they can't remember what it's like to not have it. What's your experience of that?
so it for the past 3 days, I started rock steady a week ago and it was happening like, oh, there were 24 hours a day at one point. Like I stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't sleep and I was freaking out. And that was like last week at the beginning of Rocksteady. And for the past 3 days now, I've had it like maybe 5% of the whole day out of 24 hours, like 5% of that I've heard it. Like it's like it comes and then I'm like, oh, hi, how are you? What do you need? Oh, you need a body scan or you need healing hands or you just need to say no to that activity that you said you would go to. And guess what? Your friend is still going to love you. And she totally is. She wants you to take care of yourself. So she's not going to be upset that you're not going. And that's what I had to do today. And I am a stay-at-home mom and my little girl, she takes 2 naps a day. And during her 2 naps, I took 2 naps. And normally I'm like, oh, I have to do this and this and this and this. And no, not anymore. The tinnitus told me, you need to take 2 naps today. And I did. And I barely had tinnitus all day. Like it comes and goes so quickly now because I'm giving my body what it needs, what it's asking for.
That's my experience too. So it's like if it slips into my awareness, it very quickly gets filtered out because I'm like, oh, okay, hello.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's almost always I need a glass of water. Like I'm literally dehydrated and my ears start giving me that dehydration noise. And so it's like I'm too busy. I'm neglecting some of my basic needs. So yeah, it's very quick, comes and goes. And when I can't hear it, I can't hear it at all. Completely filtered out. And I think that's really important. There's so many people with tinnitus out there who are told you got to live with it, nothing you do. It's like, it's not true. It's a very changeable phenomena. And when it comes, it usually comes for a reason. And then you can refilter it out and it goes back to nothing.
Yes, nothing. Like this was me like 5 years ago, nothing. Like what is tinnitus? What is tinnitus? I can't even say the word anymore. What is that T word? I don't know.
I think it's really good to clarify that it's not about getting rid of it forever and never, ever, 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 ever hearing it, because you can't predict the future. And the reality is your body makes sounds and sometimes you're going to hear them. It's about knowing that when you hear it, it's not for the rest of your life. It's not catastrophic. And we don't have to go into that adolescent dramatic eyeball rolling, it's a big deal. It's like, it's not a big deal. And through the Rocksteady process, we learn how to filter it out and how to take back control over our neural wiring, so we're not stuck in that victim place of helpless, hopeless, powerless, got to live with it mentality, or relying on therapy and devices and medications and all of that palaver too.
Yeah.
So I think that's really helpful for you to share your experience with everyone.
Yeah. And because that was me. I was like, yes, but did they get rid of it or do they just tolerate it? Like, I need to know. And I will tell you, like, it is gone. Like, and it does come back and it's okay, but it's so brief and I don't care, like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then it goes away because I'm not focused on it, because I know it's a friend.
Yeah. And often there's a void that we're filling with the tinnitus. So like, if we have enough time in our life to obsess and focus on the tinnitus, I would suggest it's really worth asking, like, what are my passions? What's filling me up? What lights me up? What do I need? Because when we're so busy doing what we love, we don't have space to hear the tinnitus. Like, we're too busy, writing that song or painting that picture or catching up with those friends or writing that letter or, learning Italian with our toddler. Like, we're
Yeah.
doing things, we're actively engaged in tasks that we genuinely enjoy and light us up. So we
Yes.
have what I call passion projects, and they are really healthy for human beings. Like, you would know this from your studies at university, but one of the magical ingredients for happiness is growth and learning. And if we're not doing novel and new things, we can get a bit depressed, because the human brain is wired for learning. It wants new stimulation. I even had one private client who was like, I think I'm going to take up the piano. Like, I know you just talk about the piano all the time, and I know it's not directly related to my symptoms, but I just always kind of wanted to play the piano. And now you're talking about the metaphor of the piano and learning. And I'm like, go for it. Anything you do that you're learning fills that space. And when we're not learning anything and we get a bit bored or a bit vacant, we can go back into that void and that vortex of symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's seductive. It lures us back in.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's so many pieces to the puzzle, and that's why Rocksteady is a process. And I hope you're going to love all the next modules coming your
Oh,
way.
I
In
am.
for a real treat.
Yes.
Um,
Well, you've already inspired me. My husband used to play the trumpet in middle school when he was, 12, 13, 14. And we went to his parents' house this last weekend, and he pulled out his trumpet and started playing because of you, because
oh, cool.
I keep telling him I need to find a passion. Like, I need to do something. What am I passionate about? And then he pulled out his trumpet and he was playing, and then I was playing it. And I was like, this is hilarious. I'm terrible at this, but it's the funniest thing ever. And so then we have his mom had a guitar, and so we were playing the guitar, and I'm like, maybe I'll learn how to play the guitar. Like,
Yeah.
like, I'm excited to try new things and find a new passion.
Exactly. And these are the feelings that we often miss when we're feeling helpless, hopeless, isolated, depressed, anxious, and really living in fear. We miss feeling excited. Like, we miss feeling enthusiastic. Like, we're kind of craving those long lost feelings. And we end up spending all of our money and time on trying to get rid of the symptoms and blaming symptoms, when actually the symptoms are not really the problem.
Right.
It's more realigning with our truth and reconnecting with our body and our heart and our soul, and figuring out how to remap and re-navigate our life. It's very holistic. And to look at things as a linear problem, like, I have a splinter in my toe and I'm going to tweezer it out, so my symptoms are my problem and I'm going to blame them and it needs to be removed, like, that will keep people stuck.
Right.
We've got to step back and take a much more integrated approach
Right.
to get those new neural networks to deeply set in, so we can be excited and enthusiastic and loving and connected. Little by little, it happens more often.
Right. Yes, the tinnitus isn't the problem.
No,
Then don't focus on that, because it's not a problem. It's just letting you know that you're off track.
yeah, not even, because it can happen when you're full of love too. So the tinnitus,
That's true.
really is just a sign that you're alive. The minute you're dead, you're not going to hear it.
That's true.
But whenever you're alive and you have moving mechanisms, there's capacity and space for you to hear that. So yeah, sometimes it can happen when we're, sleeping and healing. Like, when I perforated my eardrum, it was really loud and really painful for about a week, and then it disappeared again.
Yeah.
So while my membrane was healing and all my immune system was in there, it was genuinely physically, anatomically noisy, because it's all happening right by the ear.
Yeah.
Normal. It's not a sign I'm dying. It's a sign I'm healing.
Yeah.
So it's not the symptoms that are the problem. It's the relationship to our body.
Yeah.
And if we relate to the sensations, it changes everything, rather than relating to symptoms, because symptoms implies a problem. You got a little one there to say hello?
Yes, he's telling me I can't go to sleep.
Oh, well, we might leave it there. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you. So nice to meet you too.
Thanks for sharing your story, and I hope we get to hear from you again throughout the Rocksteady community and in the process. I would love that.
Yes, I'm excited.
A couple of more live calls coming this time around.
I'm excited to join and share my journey.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm Joey Remenyi from seekingbalance.com.au. For anyone out there listening with any vestibular or audiology condition with vertigo or tinnitus, check out my website. There's loads of free resources, as well as comprehensive self-study programs. And if you're seeking deeper support, I offer private therapy for a few people as well. So it's a little bye for now, and thank you again, Catherine, and all the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.